YouTube, today I'm going to tell you the story of Charles Severance. But one thing different about this video compared to our normal videos, I have the official case files, they're all here. And what's peculiar about Charles is, like the Unabomber, he had a manifesto. He wanted life and he wanted society to be a certain way. I have the official manifesto. I don't think this has ever been shown on the internet before, let alone on YouTube, so consider it an exclusive. Don't get me wrong, it's not an exclusive, but we'll chase clout in any way which we can get it. So, in this video, I'll go over the criminal cover sheet to have a look at exactly what he was charged for. Then we'll go into what happened to the victims, and then we'll take a deep dive into Charles himself, where he lived, what he did, and I'll go through his entire manifesto, culminating in his actual punishment at the end. So, if you do end up finding this video interesting, please subscribe. And this is the first time where I'm going into detail using actual case files, and I would like to do this in future. So tell me how I can make this video better, so going forward I can take your ideas on board and make these videos more engaging. So let's get on with it. So if we start with the criminal cover sheet, so as you can see, Charles Severance, top left. Now there was 10 charges in total. 2 charges of capital murder, 1 of murder in the first degree, and then a bunch of violent felony charges regarding weaponry. This is all because he did take the lives of 3 people, which I'm coming on to. Born September 25th, 1960, and this was a court case that took place in Fairfax County in Northern Virginia. So now let me tell you about Nancy Dunning. Nancy Dunning was the first woman of whom Charles took their life. On the morning of December the 5th, 2003, Nancy Dunning was murdered in her home located in the city of Alexandria in Northern Virginia. Miss Dunning was shot just inside of her front door without warning around 11 a.m. Robbery or theft was ruled out as a motive, as nothing was stolen from the home, nor was it ransacked. The explanation deduced from the evidence was that the killer entered the home, shot Miss Dunning, and exited within a matter of seconds. Shortly before the murder, Miss Dunning had been shopping at the nearby Target store located in the Potomac Yard shopping center. Video surveillance from Target showed a white male apparently following Miss Dunning inside the store. The male was wearing a black leather jacket. The male also had dark hair that was cut extremely short with a noticeable widow's peak. Forensic examination revealed that a total of 3 hollow point rounds were fired during the murder. No cartridge cases were recovered, an indication that a revolver was used. The recovered rounds displayed an identifiable pattern of tool mark impressions on them, known as lands and grooves and twists. The ammunition was identified as being manufactured by a specific ammunition company. The company produces 2 models of 22 hollow point ammunition that are virtually indistinguishable. One is simply loaded with a few more grains of gunpowder. We now move on to the murder of Ronald Kirby. On Monday, November the 11th, 2013, 3 weeks before the 10-year anniversary of the Dunning murder, Ron Kirby was murdered in his home on Elm Street. Kirby's home was located about 1 mile from the Dunning residence, directly down Russell Road and in the same general neighborhood. Mr. Kirby was shot just inside of his front door around 11 a.m. Robbery or theft was ruled out as a motive, as nothing was stolen from the home, nor was it ransacked. Again, similar to Miss Dunning, the explanation deduced from the evidence was that the killer entered the home, shot Mr. Kirby, and left within a matter of seconds. Finally, we move on to the murder of Ruth Ann Lodato. On Thursday, February the 6th, 2014, Ruth Ann Lodato was murdered in her home on Ridge Road, about a mile up Braddock Road from the Kirby home and within about half a mile from the Dunning home. A surviving witness of the attack told police that at approximately 11:30 a.m. the doorbell rang. Miss Lodato opened the door and had a brief conversation with the man at the door. The witness then heard a gunshot. Startled, the witness went to the front door area and saw a white male in his 50s with a grey beard immediately inside of the front door. The suspect was holding what happened to be a small revolver. The suspect shot at the witness and fled. The witness had never seen the suspect before, and neither had Miss Lodato, a fact confirmed by Miss Lodato before she passed away. So now we're going to take a look at Charles himself, who he was, where he was from, and then we're going to look at his, I wouldn't say manifesto, but like I said, close to it. Now, Charles himself, in the late 1990s and early 2000s, he lived on Gunston Road in Alexandria, within a half mile of the Lodato home, and within a mile or so of the Kirby and Dunning homes. During this time frame, he had a child with the woman whom he was dating. After the child was born, a difficult custody dispute ensued, and the defendant's parental rights were terminated. This outcome made the defendant extremely angry. He fought this decision for over a decade, writing his own briefs and filing them away with the courts as recently as 2011. Now, writings recovered from the defendant's car and a residence during the investigation showed his ongoing anger with the custody decision. The defendant's writings depict a man who is exceptionally angry not just at the Alexandria court system, but at what he terms status quo utopian elites. And I think this also motivated Charles. He hated elitism. The writings show the defendant as intelligent, well-read, calculating, and focused on violence. His own philosophy of anger and hatred towards elites and the enforcement class involved citations to Rousseau's social contract theory, Hobbes' Leviathan, and the theory of the noble savage. The defendant has twisted these theories to justify his violent acts. Investigators recovered a large number of writings authored by the defendant, which advocate, to different degrees, violence, murder, and assassination. These writings comprise the defendant's political manifesto and explain the defendant's reasons and motivations for these offenses. Now, before I show you the manifesto, I want to show you the certificate of analysis when it comes to Ruthann Lodato. So this is from the Department of Forensic Science, and they essentially picked up the bullets, and this is evidence that was submitted to show the bullets. This is an actual image of the bullet itself. This was in the case files itself. There's a clearer image of the bullets in question, and it's crazy for me that when you look at this image, this right here, this piece of metal, this weird looking photo is what took someone's life. Now, in 2014, the police did make a sketch of the potential killer, and this was Charles during the actual trial. And what I find interesting about this is if you look at Charles here, this is Charles in the mid 2000s, right? And this is Charles during the trial. If you have a look at the Unabomber, this is the Unabomber in his early days. Then look at the Unabomber now. So you see the difference. It's as if these philosophical criminals, if you like, I don't know what the word is, right? But you know what I'm trying to say. It's like they go through a stage of youth. They're not youth, but they look youth, right? They have these exciting ideas, so to speak. But then it seems like it eats away at them. It consumes them. It becomes their life. And then when they are so consumed and their body is just knackered and they're tired and it's essentially, that's it. You know, they've given up on life. You then see him with the gray hair, the big beard, and the transformation just seems like someone that's completely worn out. I don't know if this plays a part in the case, but I just think it's an interesting observation nonetheless. So now we come on to his manifesto. Now, when reading his manifesto, it seemed like it was random murmurings at random moments. There doesn't seem to be like a chronological, logical argument he's making. I think he felt something, he believed something, and he just wrote it down. So for example, he says here, can you forgive someone for kidnapping your son? Can you murder someone for kidnapping your son? Legitimate and overconfident adoption agency. I don't know if that actually says overconfident, but either way. Order versus liberty. Murder or forgive a kidnapper for taking your son. Forgive, forget. Curse, bless. The social currency for trade in Syria, lead it is not gold, Bitcoin, paper, stocks, something money, although mighty dollars. Now, none of this makes sense to me. In the comments, tell me, what does this mean to you? What is he referring to? How do you go from kidnapping your son to what happened in Syria? How do you go from adoption laws, so to speak, to cryptocurrencies? So now we move on to a part of his writings where he starts speaking in more philosophical terms, so to speak. In this document you're looking at now, he mentions the Prince Machiavelli. He also mentions Leviathan, Thomas Hobbes. Now, for those that don't know, this will put it into more perspective for you. Thomas Hobbes was a professor 3, 4, 500 years ago, and he wrote the initial writings of government. He believed that to stop us from killing each other, we should be loyal and we should be governed or ruled by a sovereign government. He called this social contract theory. So in this document, Charles, he starts by saying, spell enchantment and the magic of mind control, random events, random thoughts, mystery to mob government. Now, I don't know what he's trying to say here, but it further indicates to me at least what I was saying earlier, that these were just random writings at random times. I mean, just have a look. He starts by saying, introduce murder into safest, secure. I think that says, I don't know what that says. He goes on to say, it shudders with horror. Do it again and again and again. The ring of fire, death, and insecurity of Syria is contagious. So, again, there's no actual order to this, so let's keep going. American foreign policy is kick ass. Add violence and increase uncertainty among states, cure utopian oppressive elites, emotionally disturb them with violence, nightmares, and daydreams of terror. Horrible child trolls the something, and the rest to me, I can't read it. So, again, just random murmurings of someone who just seems pissed off. But if we go further, he then goes on to mention the White House. He says, attention, White House. Responding to your official solicitation and given my credentials as a registered professional mechanical engineer, I offer a technical remedy to the Gulf of Mexico oil leak. Now, Charles was actually very well educated, and in this piece, if we take it for what it is, if he's actually writing to the government and saying, hey, look, I have a solution to one of your problems, fair enough. I mean, this one isolated statement, there's actually nothing wrong with it. So he says, in exchange for complete child custody of my son, Levite David Severance, and some other personal demands, I will provide a simple dynamic solution to the source of a biblical catastrophe that has stained your brave presidential legacy. So now we come on to a negotiation. He's saying, okay, I'll give you this said solution, but let me have my son. And here are the list of demands. So he says, order child custody of Levite Severance to Charles Standard Severance. So he's saying, give me custody. Number 2, restore gun rights to Charles Severance. Number 3, pay $1 million per year to Levite Severance from the Romney, West Virginia law enforcement budget. What? Number 4, compel Admiral Thad Allen to kiss my ass on live television with CNN, Fox News, CBS, NBC, and ABC, and BBC networks filming. Now, I don't know who Thad Allen is, and when I did my research, he was some admiral with the Coast Guard, but I think maybe, given Charles' virtuous signaling, I don't know what the right word is, but given Charles thinks he is some kind of savior, he was probably angry at Thad Allen, because Thad Allen he became a deputy with FEMA during the Hurricane Katrina disaster, and people have a whole host of opinions on that. Anyway, number 5, declare martial law. Number 6, cut the National Institute on Mental Health budget by 90%. Number 7, grant $100 million to, I don't even know what that says, mentaldisorder.com, the internationally recognized online authority on mental disorders. And finally, number 8, exempt me from any civil, criminal, probate, That looks like kangaroo, but obviously I don't know what that means. He's essentially saying, don't hold me liable. Now, when I read this, I think to myself, you what? It's actually hilarious, right? It's like, okay, well then, do you want a private jet too? Right? Do you want 10 naked women? Do you want a mansion? But it further indicates in the kind of mind, the kind of person we're talking about. He thought of himself as someone who could fix big societal issues, but at the same time, he wanted X in return. Now, this looks like a letter that he wrote to his son or something he may have plotted with his son in mind. Maybe this is the plotting of one of the murders. So if we take a look, it says 18th century age of enlightenment, age of reason, Levite, something, my son. So it seems this is addressed to his son. Please purchase 3 North American firearms, .22 mini revolvers, and 500 rounds of subsonic low velocity cartridges. I mean, I gave my son advice, but not that. The fire round, stainless steel with wooden grip revolver, is small and easily concealed. Thou shalt murder, and vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Hollow point and below the speed of sound is sweet music and very, very effective in the very, very dangerous land of Allah, because tomahawking a homestead in the backwoods of America is a second coming of the Lord Jesus Christ. Violence wins. So far he's taken somewhat of a biblical term. I don't know where, I mean, that could be Alan, but I think he might be saying Allah as in God as opposed to the deputy card I just mentioned. But this certainly seems similar to one of the crimes regarding Miss Dunning. He goes on to say, God bless you, my son. Cheese to us, Cheerio to us, maybe. Kushet Babi, I don't know what that says. Learn to couple country, water, and dance. Deus ex machina. I don't know what he's saying there. And I don't know what he says at the end. He goes on to talk about American Protection Child Services, and he talks about how it affected him. So in this part, he says, a man who becomes a victim of child protection services, of family courts, something or other government kidnapping agencies at liberty until he is affected, fatigued from finding no satisfaction. I know I probably didn't read that correctly, but he goes on to say, anyone who is a victim of savage police policy is at liberty to murder, something, torture, and steal, and is effectively exhausted from finding no satisfaction. If we play by your rules, you would win. We are not playing by your rules. Analysis for new card game. Again, I don't know what he's trying to say, or rather, I don't know what he is saying, but what he's trying to say is that these child protection agencies, I hate them because they took my son away from me. Here, he talks about being sorry and how being sorry is a sign of weakness. He says, apologizing is not only a sign of weakness, it is a rank with duplicity, contempt, malice intent, with an expectation that the neighbor is ignorant and inclined to be... I have no idea what that says on the end. There is no such thing as unlevel good, bad, right, and wrong. There is only local custom, tradition, culture, and individual will, which is probably true. Time for conspiracy consumption and the governing elite to abhor humility. Either should gloat in their effective something and exploitation of the weak something. Unfortunately, pride comes before all. Deceive, lie, and pretend. Given understanding and honesty, this dreadful to tolerate weakness. Thou shalt kill because many are permanently against you. They cannot be reformed. Do not suffer to which it live. Murder and adversing and be kind to a friend. So again, there's no chronological order to what he's saying. There's no actual story to what he's saying. It's not like he's following a logical path in his brain to formulate his thoughts. But so far, I want to know what you think. Comment, tell me, What do you think is going through? What do you think is actually trying to say? It's easy for me to read this and say he's just a madman. He's insane. He's lost a plot, right? And we can deduce that this is probably because he lost his son in a custody battle, and maybe this is his way of expressing himself. But what do you think he's actually trying to say? Do you think this is an adult man who is just grieving over his son? Or do you think this is someone who genuinely believes in change but just doesn't know how to express it? Now, with this part of his writings, he mentions what could be, again, a plot in one of his killings. The starting torque is 2.5 times the running torque. If it is harder, therefore, be firm and decisive, parable of the knocker. Knock, enter. A metaphor, a something, a mystery. Knock and the door will be answered. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and the door will open. And ye shall know wisdom. Knock, talk, enter, kill, enter. Murder, wisdom. Patience is an excuse to cowardice. Jesus the Lord. Parable of the decider. I'm not too sure. Now, this could just be an opening of some kind of wisdom he's trying to express to himself, but this could also be a literal way in his head of how he's going to go to the door of one of the victims, knock on the door, the victim's going to come, and then he's going to kill and he's going to flee. I don't know, sounds weird, I know, but then again, we are talking about what seems like, someone who's just lost a plot. Now he goes on to talk about a philosophical historical concept known as the noble savage. I don't know much about this, but what I do know is that each generation, each empire in history always looked at the other as savages. Some have said savages is what justified the Europeans in colonizing the natives in America. Essentially, if you want to go and take someone else's land, you need to create an enemy. You need to make those people in those lands seem subhuman. Savages is just a term people have used throughout the ages. Now, in regards to Charles, he goes on to say, the first law of noble savage theory is thou shalt murder. The second law of noble savage theory is thou shalt murder again, and the third again and again. He goes on to say, given the contempt exchanged between neighbor and the vanity of human nature, preemption, life, and effective ambush is paramount. We are not all in this together. Great patriarchs teach their children how to murder thy neighbor, and the happy greed mother of his children something. Police contempt for civilian is prevalent. Gun control, protection order, and child molestation and meth distribution are among the trademarks, and the only good cop is a dead one. So here, he's dabbling into conspiracy theories. He's saying that the police are the ones that are trying to police crime, but at the same time, they're organizing the crime too. Now, what's interesting in this part of his manifesto, when he mentions Thomas Hobbes, he says, social contract theory, like Thomas Hobbes, are worth studying. Leviathan and Behemoth. Thou shalt not kill is a lie. No self-respecting, God-fearing patriarch, or I don't know what that says, would not kill men and women who delight in terrorizing his family. The only good cop is a dead cop. And it's an interesting point he's trying to make there. He's trying to say, well, if you come after my family, I should have the right to kill you. To me, he's talking about the child protection agencies. I feel like whenever, like reading this, and whenever I look at Charles and the entire case, I feel like everything goes back to his son's custody battle. He also mentions quite a lot of biblical terms. For example, attachments to government cease to be natural when they cease to be mutual. Civilian contempt for police is mutual. Nature has done everything for us, and government everything against. It is not he who dies with the most toys wins or lives the longer. He who denies the most years of life to his adversaries. Again, I probably read that wrong. But he says, thou shalt murder, kill, slay, execute. Thou shalt murder, kill, assassinate, slay, execute. And reverently, to effectively worship God is to be God. vengeance, mine, saith the Lord. So he's advocating for violence. That's pretty clear, but he's doing it using biblical language. Maybe he was a devout Christian. Maybe he had some weird sense of Christianity. We can all agree this isn't what Christianity says. Either way, it seems like, remember when I mentioned earlier about the change in his facial structure, right? So when he's talking about Thomas Hobbes and when he's talking about social contract theory, you can say this is Charles. He looks pretty young, he looks pretty neat, he's full of life, so to speak, because there's nothing wrong with what Thomas Hobbes says. But then the more he dabbles into the killing and the murder and the justification of it, the more I see the grey-haired, big-bearded, worn-out Charles. And now, coming on to the conclusion of this case, we're going to look at his counts, right? So in this document, it says that the grand jury charges that on or about the 6th day of February 2014, in the city of Alexandria, Virginia, Charles Severance did unlawfully, feloniously, willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation kill and murder Ruth Ann Lodato, and within a 3-year period of this offense did unlawfully, feloniously, willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation kill and murder another person, namely Ronald Kirby. Then it goes on to mention the use of firearms and weaponry, etc. But I want you to have a look at this document. This is from the Manifesto again. I have no idea what this is, but it says cops killed 5/17/1902. Cops, I don't know what that says. Cops skull sealed, cops crippled, cops suicide. But I don't know what this document means. So what do you think this is? Comment, let me know. Eventually, a Fairfax grand jury sentenced Charles to life in prison plus 48 years on January the 20th, 2016. The prosecutor said that bitterness over a child custody battle he lost and a general hatred of Alexandria's elite motivated him to shoot the victims, all of whom were strangers to him. And it's interesting how we cope with loss. Now, loss generally is a term used to describe those that are, whose life has gone. But in this case, Charles, if we look at him as an individual, he was suffering from loss. And the only way he knew how to cope was to take the lives of others. If he loses, others lose. Anyway, comment, tell me what you think. Thanks for watching.